Okay. Hi, Atira, and welcome to the You Ripple podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that your time is limited, so it's just going to be a quick 20-minute interview just to hear about your business and what's up and coming. The first question I love to ask everybody as we get started is, what do you love about being human?
What do I love about, oh my God, there's so much that I love about being human. Wow. So one of the biggest things that I love about being human is really about, like, it's very linked to the work that I do in the world. And I see a lot of, like, my purpose and passion of being in the world as, the serving of humanity. And in this field of being of service and yeah, being in that very sacred role of working towards the healing and the balance of the energies of the planet at the moment. I get to work in some of the darkest places in the world. So I've worked a lot in, disaster relief. I worked in refugee camps, in marginalized communities. And I've dedicated most of my life in service to this area and this field of human slavery, specifically in sex trafficking, slavery, exploitation, and abuse. And because I see so much of darkness and suffering in the world, I also get to see the other side of life of being human. And that side is to really see the triumph and the resilience of the human spirit. And when I can witness the transformation of, a woman or a child or man or boy who has gone through so much challenges and suffering and pain, and to transform that and to create, beauty from that, is one of the most incredible things I think that I have witnessed in being human. Mm-hmm. And holding both the shadow and the light of humanity, that we have these two polarized aspects, in this play of Leela that we are all in. I think that holding both of that and having compassion and loving kindness for both those opposing energies is something that brings a lot of depth and a lot of purpose to being human. And so that's one of the top things that I've enjoyed in my human existence.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It's amazing. And so for those who don't know, you're Atira Tan, and you're the founder of the Art to Healing project. And it's coming, not this weekend, but the following weekend, which is the 8th of September.
The 9th of September.
9th of September, sorry, is the YOGATHON for Freedom.
Yeah.
So could you tell us all a little bit about that? Perhaps it might be really nice to know what the Art to Healing project is.
Yeah.
A little bit in your human answer, but Art to Healing project, what that is, and just like the beginning. Can you start at the beginning? Yeah.
Sure, I'll start in the beginning. So the Art to Healing is a registered charity with Australia, with the ACNC, and we've been operating for about 15 years. And the main goal of Art to Healing is to provide trauma-informed care to women and children and men now who have experienced child sex slavery. And the reason why I started this organization is because I've worked in this field for many years, and I started in 2004. And when I was working as an art therapist with one of the biggest kind of anti-trafficking organizations in Cambodia, where I started, which sex trafficking was quite prolific, or still is prolific at this time, I found a real gap in that. There's actually a lot of money that gets poured and resources that gets poured into anti-trafficking and slavery. And in terms of looking at recovery, there can be a lot of money that gets poured into food and education and shelter. And however, if there the trauma informed piece is missing, it's very difficult for these survivors to really live lives free of slavery after they exit the shelter or after they exit the organization. Mm-hmm. Because there is a lot of shame and there's a lot of discrimination, especially in Asia, for being sold into sex trafficking. And one really has to have an incredible cornerstone of resilience to be able to meet the obstacles that come their way after something like slavery. And because a lot of these girls, they get sold when they're very young, girls and boys, they get sold when they're very young. In Cambodia, the age was about 11, 12, 13 was when they kind of got sold. Some earlier, I've worked with, children that have been sold when they were 1.5 years old. That was the youngest that I ever heard of. They suffer from a lot of developmental trauma, which means that parts of the brain are not developed. So they might be 21 when they get rescued, but their emotional intelligence and their capacity for retaining information is really at a 7 or 8 year old. So without that trauma informed piece, it's very difficult for these women and children and men to be able to live lives and not go back to the sex trade afterwards, or not get sold and get re-trafficked again. So having this kind of information and seeing the gap. So there are actually a lot of counseling services in different anti-trafficking shelters, but the counseling services involve a lot of it is based on solution-focused therapies, and a lot of it is based on talk therapy and problem solving. And even though problem solving is really effective in certain areas, but for the really deep areas of healing where these girls really need to recover, it doesn't really get to the core and the essence of what they need. So Art to Healing is an organization that provides, we work on 3 different tiers. So number 1, we deliver trauma-informed programs in a very holistic way. So we work with the art therapies, we work with trauma-informed yoga and mindfulness, we work with somatic experiencing, we teach counseling skills, we teach reproductive health so these women can reconnect to their bodies in a safe and empowering way. Because when you've gone through something like sex slavery, it's so overwhelming that to survive, you really just need to cut off your relationship to your body. And a lot of these women end up hating their bodies because, essentially that's why they've been so traumatized and they've been sold. So it's about helping them really slowly and gently regain and reconnect to their bodies and their wisdom, so that through this connection they can live lives of resilience and they can actually be free to create the lives that they want to create, instead of being pulled down and weighted down with obstacles of depression, of self-loathing, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, so on and so forth. So because of that, I've worked, we're very grassroots, so we work directly with the survivors, and a big part of our programs are about capacity building. So we're upskilling the women and men who are caregivers, essentially, of these women, to help them look at recovery in a more trauma-informed way, so that they can offer more kind of more effective trauma recovery interventions that are not just solution focused. They're really about helping. It's more holistic and it's more kind of trauma informed. And we also do a lot of research. So we're constantly researching and trying to understand, okay, does this intervention or does this approach work with the women? And if so, why? And if not, why? So so it's very client-led, it's very strengths-based, so we do this on different levels, and we try and make our programs as sustainable as possible. So there is a ripple effect where we teach people not just how to fish, we don't just give up fish to people like through direct delivery, but we are teaching people how to fish so that these women and girls can actually essentially become leaders in their community and spread this information and this empowerment also to their communities, so that trafficking can be prevented in communities. Yeah. So in essence, this is what art to healing is. And Yoga for Freedom is actually starting this Sunday. It's actually a week of yoga events where, and part of it is the Yogathon. And in Melbourne, because I come from Melbourne, that's kind of one of our biggest offerings of events during this week. But Yoga for Freedom is an international kind of global social yoga and social change movement. And it started during the earthquake, when there was a really big earthquake in Nepal. And what I saw during that time is that, the traffickers were coming in from India and China and snatching away girls that were, their families had died, or, their homes were broken. And so obviously not dislocated, but they're extremely vulnerable, and they're also, especially in the remote communities, these girls are very innocent as well. And so it was just really quite disgusting at that time, so I started this movement as something to bridge kind of the Western commercial yoga industry with being able to create sustainable and active change in the world. So it's no longer, it's really important to, it's important, I think, in our yoga industry to focus on giving back. Because the yoga industry these days has become quite a focus on self. So I want to do yoga because I want to look like this, or I want to feel this way, or so on and so forth. But at a certain stage in our yoga kind of practice, we start to realize that we are essentially one, and the power to heal humanity, it's really about individuals coming together and creating difference in the world. And every one of us has the power to create a difference. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what kind of difference do we want to make? And when I was in Nepal during that time, I was like really quite involved in the, recovery efforts and doing a lot of needs assessments. And I saw incredible things, that, people had lost, their homes, they had lost, they were living under like leaky tops and with nothing, very much, it was monsoon, and, there's a lot of danger. And they were essentially really at peace and very accepting of what was happening. And I was really moved by that. I was like, this is the real yoga. This is the real yoga, where we can find this resilience in our core, this sense of peace and acceptance in our core. And it is unwavering. This joy is unwavering. The sense of self is unwavering. And for me, I was very, very moved by that. And because I was so moved by that, I wanted to do something and create something within the yoga industry, which I have been teaching as a yoga teacher for 11 years. I wanted to start a movement where yogis had the opportunity to give back in a sustainable and tangible way. So essentially, that's what Yoga for Freedom is. It's got 3 main objectives. So the first objective is really about spreading that vibration of loving kindness. And we don't just want to say, let's love and let's, and that's all great, but we want to say, okay, this is the money, this is what we're doing with the money, this is the action which is coming out from, this movement. So we want to create something which is really tangible and very grounded and practical. So that's one of the main goals. So that's one of the main goals. The second main goal is to advocate and encourage more trauma-informed yoga programs for marginalized communities. And this year with the Yogathon for Freedom on next Sunday, what we're doing is we are trying to also we're donating proceeds to Yoga in Action that set up trauma-informed yoga programs at Foundation House, which is working with survivors of torture. So we want to bring more of that into, really advocate trauma-informed yoga as a healing modality. And in my 15 years of experience setting up trauma-informed yoga programs, yoga is such an amazing tool in helping helping people connect to a sense of safety in their bodies, and this is really key in healing suffering and bad experiences. Is the body has to come into the equation. And the third one is to inspire and give a platform for yoga teachers and the community to really step out into that sense of leadership and to ripple from their practice, this social change and justice into the darkest places of humanity, which really affect us and which touch us. Mm-hmm. So those are the three kind of goals of Yoga for Freedom. And this year we have over 40 different global ambassador events spread across the globe, which is happening on Saturday. So if you're in Melbourne, you can come down. I think on the 1st of September, a beautiful brother called Chakra and Bonnie are running a kirtan fundraiser in Elwood. So that's going to kick off Yoga for Freedom. And then in Melbourne itself, we have about 15 different events that people can come to. And one of them is the Yogathon for Freedom. Mm-hmm. So we have 8 different teachers that are teaching, and you can come down, even though it's called a Yogathon, like you can just come down for 1 hour and join your favorite teacher in this class. And in the evening, we have Dancing for Freedom, which is an ecstatic dance that's led by a beautiful brother, Ben Temple-Step, and his partner, Madhu Henry. And they're going to be leading us in this full kind of activation prayer where we're going to sweat and stomp and move our prayer for, humanity and world peace into the world in a collective and in a way which involves community. Yeah.
And so it'll be fun, and this is part of that light side of life, and how we can use our light and our ecstaticness to really support what's going on in the dark.
Exactly.
There's elements that are quite exciting, and so even if you can't attend the event, you can donate as well. That's right. So there's different. Yeah. Like I've got my name down for a GoFundMe campaign, which everything goes directly to the Art to Healing. What are some other ways that people can contribute if they're not able to attend one of these events in Melbourne?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go straight to the arttohealing.org website to the donate page, and there's a list of options that you can donate. If you are in Australia, all donations above $2 are tax deductible. So we'll provide a tax deductible receipt at the end of the month, and you can claim that back on tax. It goes straight into programs that we're actually starting to run in November this year. Yeah.
And all the events and things that people can attend or participate in, they're all listed on your Art to Healing website as well.
Yeah, so with that, it's a bit different. You have to go to the yogaforfreedom.org.au website to see our events. So if you go to that website for Yoga for Freedom and click on the events page, you'll see all of the different events spread out through all the different continents.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
And is there anything else you want to add or talk about, or I know that you've got to get going really soon, so it's really great to hear from you, and I just want to express my gratitude for the work and the inspiration that comes through you, and that you have the courage to put into action and find solutions to these things that often feel really overwhelming. We know this stuff is going on, and I know for one, half the time I'm kind of in freeze mode of how do I help? And I guess this project and the work that you're doing, I would love to encourage people to know that this is a way that you can help.
Absolutely.
your team is kind of like leading the way. And if you're not a person who can live your life in, you know, your everyday and all that sort of stuff, but you want to help and you want to give, like promoting this work is going to help, giving money to this work is going to help, telling your friends about this work is going to help. It's like this is a place. I've known Atira for maybe like, I don't know, since you slept in my van, like
yoga time. Yeah, totally.
yeah, so
yeah.
I've known Atira for like 8 years, and I've been watching on the outside and the inside a little bit, and just going, yeah, go girl. And I can assure you, high integrity and good work that that's coming through you and your teams. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So just to kind of add on a personal kind of more vulnerable note, I mean, as Yoga for Freedom Week kind of starts in a couple of days, yeah, I've been really kind of feeling into actually a lot of anger and a lot of sadness that, you know, even in the 21st century where we have like incredible technology to even like, you know, 3D print a house, or you know, we have so much technology to go to the moon and do so many different things, and yet, you know, it makes me angry that it makes me angry to feel into the amount of suffering that there is in the world, especially in this area of child sex slavery. And I've been kind of, really going through the cycles of oscillating with, you know, really feeling the survivors, the pain of the survivors, and feeling really, you know, a lot of anger that towards the perpetrators, you know, and then feeling, you know, a lot of compassion as well for the perpetrators, and then a lot of compassion for both the survivors and the perpetrators, and really compassion to humanity, to being human as a whole. And what I usually come down to, and what, you know, I've been in this big kind of journey internal process today, is that our planet is one that needs a lot of healing. And the reason why there's so much suffering in the world is that, you know, like pain and suffering is created through generations, is intergenerational. And when us as individuals can heal ourselves, and when we can ripple that healing through our acceptance and understanding of ourselves, then without a lot of effort, we start to make this world a bigger, like a better place, you know. And yoga is definitely one of the most incredible tools that we can start to generate and cultivate this sense of loving kindness and compassion for ourselves, so that we can build the strength and the resilience to heal ourselves. And as we diminish that pain in the world for ourselves, that ripples out. So as I sit on the brink of Yoga for Freedom, and some of the last messages that I want to add before we finish with this podcast is that for this week, I really invite people in their yoga practice, or if you have any kind of practice, or even if you know, just you don't have any practice at all, you just kind of go on the streets and you just do in your daily life, to actually take a moment to connect to that sense of loving kindness and compassion for the wounded part of yourself, you know, the parts that are really craving for love and care and tenderness and kindness, and to take some time this week to really sit and to hold those parts of you. And to, if you do have a practice, as you connect to that source within yourself, to also maybe think of one person in your life that could be suffering right now, or maybe an issue, you know, it might be child sex slavery, if this is something that really, you know, pulls your heartstrings, or it might be the plastic in the ocean, like whatever it is that you feel deeply deeply concerned about. I mean, our tendency is that, we're going to freeze and we're going to overwhelm because it just feels too much. But if you can really just focus on just one thing, one person, or one issue, and just send our compassion and healing and kindness to that issue, and to actually even to be kind to the people that are close to you this week, I have no doubt that we're going to make a difference in the world, and to use our yoga practice and our spiritual practice to ripple some of that out more consciously into the world today. So this is my invitation to everyone this week, and hopefully it will continue into your life and ripple out into creating change in your community, and also especially for ourselves too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to see you and hear you talk
Yeah.
what you're doing and where it's come and how it's evolving. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next weekend.
Yeah, next Sunday.
And
Great.
in the meantime, yeah, everybody, please just, if you've seen this and you got to hear, please share something, please donate, buy a ticket, come dance with us next Sunday night. Yeah, and tear up the dance floor together and welcome in spring and all that energy and new growth and all that sort of stuff that comes with this time of year as well. So thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Your day.
Mhm. Bye.